My favorite camera of 2021. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's That One Camera Guy, back at it again with another video for you. Today I wanted to go ahead and share with you why I think this camera is the best camera of 2021. Granted, it didn't come out in 2021, it came out the year prior to that, but I just had the chance to really get into the gears of using it in 2021. Now, the choice between this camera was a little difficult. I was choosing between the Sony A9 and obviously the A7S III, if that wasn't obvious already. Primarily because these two cameras have been most used in the last 4 months or so for shooting sports and what have you, because of just the abilities that they both have. One is really good at still photos for sports and high action with the A9, and then the A7S III is just a video killer in terms of its abilities. So anyway, I wanted to go ahead and break a few things down. Hopefully there's some timestamps you can hop onto. I will be showing some image examples for the A7S III. Now, before I get into it, I just want to stress to you that the way I use my gear, I'm shooting high school sports, events, portraits, multicam recording. So like a play or an event or a pageant or something, I'll be using multi-cameras, like many cameras, and then creating short skits and films, and sometimes shoot weddings, whatever. It's a mix of things that I'll end up doing with the equipment. And so having tools that are great at both is as an added benefit. Okay, I'll say that at the least. Now, a perfect camera to me is one that is both good, obviously in both stills and video. Now, the A9 is very good for high action, peak action sports. It's sort of a specialized tool, whereas the A7S III was more along the lines of video. But as you'll learn more about it, the still side ended up surprising me. So during the first half of 2021, I used the A7S III for primarily just video, and then the A9 and the A7R4 were my go-to. I was shooting portraits, team sports pictures, and some sports portraits with the A7R4, and then sports photos with the A9, and then some short clips of video with the A7S III at the time. And that's basically what ended up happening. And then the second half of the season of 2021, football, tennis, soccer, golf, and all those other things, I started using the A7S III and the A9 more so than the A7R4. There was this weird shift in what I was doing. So anyway, we're going to jump into the A7S III. I got a list of things. Number one on my list of what I like about it and why it sort of hit the my favorite camera of 2021 is the overall ergonomics and build of the A7S III. You already know the build design is really nice. It can fit over on my hand over here. It is built a little bit better than the A7 IV, slightly, the way it feels. All the dials and additional bells and whistles on there are great. The EVF is really the big killer feature of this camera. The flip-out screen is also amazing as well. These two alone are so valuable for this particular camera, but the EVF, I gotta say, to be honest, that's really the reason why I've been gravitating more towards the A7S III to shoot sports pictures as of late than the A9, because the EVF on the A9 is kind of long in the tooth now, long in the wind or whatever, and I just like the one on the A7S III. So if you haven't had a chance to use a big bright EVF on a camera, it's going to be a world of difference if you use it a lot. And then the flip out screen is a love-hate relationship depending on what you use it for, and for me, I just like the fact that I have it. Sometimes it's kind of annoying to have to flip the screen out depending on how you shoot, whether it's stills, for example. But hey, it's better to have it than not to have it. That's my opinion. And then the other components are the actual ports and dials, full-size HDMI, USB-C, and then some big ones is that I like that they place the microphone port at the very top part here, so that when you flip the screen, it does not block that port, or it doesn't block the actual screen, which is fantastic. I really like that about it. So all in all, really like it. You got the dual UHS-2 card slots and the CF Express Type A. I know these cards are still very, very pricey right now, but I like the aspect of having faster options in the future, and hopefully we get higher capacities at slightly lower price points in the next several years. And for the most part, you don't really need them. You can get away with V30 and V60 cards, but the point here is that you have options, and I really like that about the system. The next thing on this is number 2, which is video features. Pretty simple, 10-bit 422, 4K 60p, 4K 120p was just an icing on the cake for the system. And I really, really like that. You got all like the different flavors of S-Log 3. You have your dual ISO, which I don't think they really say it's dual ISO. And then S-Cinetone, all these other added benefits that make this camera so much better as a video tool. And there's some aspects of it that I don't fully take advantage of because I'm not an expert at it, but overall, slowly but surely, I'll get the hang of that. The next thing is on my list, number 3, is the autofocus for both stills and video. Very, very competent camera tool. I thought the A7R4 was going to be very, very good for like sports and shooting, but it was good, but it just wasn't there. What I've noticed is the A7S3 seems to be a bit better than the the A7R4 from my experience of using it, and so I've just been opting to use this more and more now for shooting sports, just alone for photography, and then on the side of video, it does its job, folks. I can't even complain. I mean, it works, and you have the options to sort of dial in the sensitivity and the tracking on the actual autofocus too. Number 4. Let's see here, is the image quality, 12 megapixels. So this is the one thing about this camera that made it my favorite camera of 2021. And surprisingly, it was the image quality on the A7S III. I started snapping some photos, again, as I said, in the first half, but I didn't really notice it. It was only until the second half of the year where I took images and I started looking at them. I was like, wow, those photos look really good. And it blew me away, even with just 12 megapixels, you know, and we get caught up on the megapixel race, but are they good 12 megapixels, for example? And so I was just fascinated by how well the photos were coming out that I said, you know, I'll just shoot more with it. And I continued to do that. Now, this thing was a big game changer. So at this point in time when I was realizing this, I said, man, this is a really great camera. And this is the whole thing with the A7 IV and why the conversation kind of opened up about that camera, was because it had more resolution. Granted, you know, some setbacks in video with the crop factor, which people have their opinions on. But what really excited me was that this one in particular, you could do something with it. And this is number 5. You can enhance the images. Now, this is not part of the camera itself, but really a software thing. And we're going to take a look at that right now. And what ends up happening is that you can run that enhanced resolution in Lightroom and bump up that 12 megapixel and effectively double it to a degree, if not more. I think quadruple it. I could be wrong. Anyway, but you can definitely enhance the images. So let's hop on over into Lightroom and take a look at that now. So I've got some images here just to sort of start to get us going. And let's go ahead and compare them. Now, the image on the left is an image that's been cropped, and the image on the right is the original photo with no crop. So let me go ahead and zoom in on this one here. This is at 200%. So the image on the right side is the original, no crop. The one on the left has been enhanced. So we've used the super resolution or the enhance option to improve this. So let's zoom in here, try to match it up. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Kind of get a flavor for that. There we go. And here we are. This is, let's go ahead and change the resolution. So the resolution on the left is about 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. That's about 24 megapixels actually. And then the one on the right is the standard 12 megapixels of the A7S III. So after running the enhancement tool, so even with the crop on the image plus this, if you look at the difference from the left and the right hand side, there's so much more detail that the software was able to pull from it, which is incredible. I think just seeing that alone was such a big deal for me. Next one over here, let me hop on to this example. So this girl, she just scored a goal, and the one on the right side is the original 12 megapixel image. The one on the right is clocking in at 8,400 to 5,600 pixels of resolution. So much higher, right? So a lot of detail there. So let's go ahead and punch in here. So she's just celebrating right now with a teammate, and here we are. We are at 200% on the one on the right, at about 100% on the one on the left. It's not exactly the same, but as you'll notice, there is a slight detail improvement on the one on the left at this level, which is, I mean, I can see it. Hopefully you can with the uploaded file. I'm going to try to upload it as high quality as I can, but hopefully you can see the difference. The one on the left has substantially more detail than the one on the right, just using that option. And now, again, we're at almost 8,000 pixels of resolution compared to the previous one. So why even need, for example, why even need a high resolution like A7R3 or A7R4, or even in this case, the A9? Now, what's interesting is that the A9 afforded me the ability to crop, much easier. So that was a nice benefit with the Sony A9. It's just the 24 megapixels allowed me to crop a little bit. Let's hop on over into a situation. So as I was mentioning earlier, you can run the resolution option and boost it, but it's really case usage dependent. If you start shooting at higher ISOs, it doesn't seem that enhancing it's going to improve the quality. Let's take a look here. So I took this one during a Christmas parade, and we'll compare it right now. The one on the left is the enhanced one. The one on the right is the original, as you can see here. I shot this with the Tamron 20-75 Mark II, and let's see, this is 200%. We'll go to the sign over here, and then we'll try to match it up again. The one on the left-hand side is the enhanced image, and what's weird is that it seems like in some areas I can't really tell, I can't really notice the difference as I did with the previous images. This, again, ISO 12,800, and it seems that there is a little benefit in there. Like, it seems that there's a little bit more detail in the pom-poms that she's holding here, but it just doesn't really stand out to me to be any different. And that's the whole point I want to stress there, is that yes, you can take advantage of the resolution option, but you got to get it at a lower ISO to take advantage of it. Now, I am going to have a video with the 7200G Master and kind of a quick update on that and the use of extenders, so make sure you're subscribed to that. All right, let's talk a little bit what I don't like. Number one, obviously you can't shoot in crop video with the Sony a7S III, which kind of sucks sometimes because you want a little bit more reach. So that's where the a7 IV is actually a little bit of a head start there. The other thing too is really not a knock on the camera, because it doesn't, it's not built into it, but it doesn't shoot more than 10 frames per second. I would have liked to have seen a slight bump, whether it's 12 to 15, similar to the a7 IV. It would have made it a killer sports camera at that point for me. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, 12 megapixels. It would have been nice to see maybe 18, 20, even 24 on this camera. But I guess that 12 megapixel sensor is a very nice one, and so they kept it at that point to maximize its capabilities. So let's go ahead and do a quick conclusion to wrap things up with a nice bow on the top here as we end the year. The a7S III, to me, is quite frankly near perfect in terms of what it offers for both stills and in video. Now, what the future holds for it, I really don't know yet. We'll have a video on that. But for the time being, this is really it. The flip out screen, the video features, the EVF, it just makes it a joy to use and to shoot with. And I mentioned before, the shutter is just, it's so nice and well dampened. Actually, it's more dampened than the a7 IV in my opinion. It seems a little quieter. The a7 IV is a little bit different. But point being, really enjoyed the camera so far. Going to continue to use it and keep using it. And that's going to do it for me in this video, folks. Let me know down below what your camera of 2021 was, whether it was a new camera, an old camera, whatever it is. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And that's going to do it for me, folks. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and check out my other content.